Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University. Let's continue to look at assessing learning today, and particularly let's focus on exit slips. Exit slips have been used for a number of years by our colleagues in early childhood and elementary education, but more and more exit slips are finding their way into the high school classes. So if you're not as familiar, an exit slip is an easy way to obtain information about student understanding of content that they have hopefully acquired during today's class. In its simplest form, an exit slip is a piece of paper, or it's an index card where students just record something based on a prompt given by a teacher. Marzano suggests that exit slips are used to gather information in one or more of four areas, either to provide formative assessment data, to stimulate student self-analysis, to focus on the teacher's instructional strategies, or to simply open communications with the teacher and the student. Let's take a look at each of these. One purpose of assessment is to gather information that we can use to determine how students are grasping the information and acquiring it, and maybe change what we're doing and how we're doing it. So if we wanted to provide formative assessment data from an exit slip, we could ask a question like this. How would you rate your current level of understanding of what we did today? Where a 3 would represent I understand everything, a 2 would represent I think I understand it, but I'm not sure what to do with it. A 1 would represent I have some misunderstandings, and a 0 meaning I'm really lost in terms of this content. Notice that while there seems to be a lot of information presented here, we're only asking the student to write a number. We could add a second question to that and say, if you're confused, what are you most confused about from today's class? And then as a follow-up, if the majority of class identifies a specific area of confusion, well, then you can use that information to maybe reteach that content the following day. If you find that there are several different topics, but it's not a majority of students, but just small groups of students having difficulty in specific areas, then as a teacher you might offer small group instruction that targets specific concepts. You could have group work going on where a student who understands the content well might be assigned to that group, and they could be topic-specific experts. They could mentor the other students in that topic. You might want to use an exit slip to stimulate student reflection and self-analysis. So you could ask students to reflect on or think about the effort that they used, or the types of learning strategies that they used in class. You could ask a question like, how hard did you work in class today? And explain why you think you worked at the level that you did. Or you could ask something like, what could you have done today to help yourself learn better? Notice that one use of exit slips is to gather information that the teacher wants to know, or to prompt students into reflecting and thinking. And in these cases, the teacher is not looking to use information from exit slips in any way to support grading or assessment. You could use an exit slip to focus on instructional strategies and kind of gauge the room. How effective are the instructional strategies that we used today? So you could ask a question like, how did the group work today help you understand the content? What are some things you'd like to see during group work in the future, or something relative to that, again, according to what your specific need is in your classroom? You could ask something about one particular instructional strategy and seek to receive some student feedback on it. How is it working? Does it speak to you? Is it engaging you? If you find that a majority of students um, relay that a given strategy is not enhancing their learning, well, then that prompts you as the teacher to maybe try out some alternative ways to either to use that same strategy and change it around a little bit, or maybe to abandon it, at least with this group, if not in general, and and do that in favor of some other strategies that will be more effective. Marzano suggests that the fourth reason that a teacher might want to employ an exit slip is to simply open and maintain good communication with the teacher. In other words, to connect with the students more. Now, you could do this in a heavier way. You could say, what is something that I should be doing to improve your understanding of the material? But just realize if you do that type of thing, um, that's inviting criticism and judgment, and you can't do that in the beginning of the academic year because first of all, there's not enough experience on the part of the students with you, and second of all, it takes a pretty good amount of courage for students to and for teachers to engage in that level of communication. You could open communication and maintain it in a lighter way, and you could ask questions like, are you experiencing any difficulties? You could ask something just very generic, like something about the interests of the students, or um, just something to communicate in some way with them. The more that you can interact with them and connect with them, you can use that relationship and that rapport, and also information that you gain about them. Things like, what's your favorite sport or activity? What kind of hobbies do you have? And you can use that as you create different educational experiences and make it more relevant to that particular group of students. You could go beyond the exit ticket, and you could attempt with, especially with older students, you could attempt to gain real-time assessment data to determine if reteaching is necessary. Student response system software and hardware can help you with this, as well as tools such as Soapbox. All your students come into class with a cell phone. You could use their cell phone potentially to tap into a tool like Soapbox. Let's take a look at that. Soapbox is a web tool that you and your students could log into. On the high end, a teacher can prepare formative assessments and send out at different times questions to which the students can respond. Again, this can be for assessment purpose, for grading purpose. It could be just like it could be the electronic form of asking questions in class as well, where you're engaging the students and prompting them to think about responses and commit to them. And this way, by using Soapbox, you could get real-time assessment data on the entire class versus if you're having a discussion and or asking questions of the class and only getting a certain subset of the students responding. On the low end, you could include, because all these things you could turn on and off in Soapbox, you could turn on the student confusion barometer. And this is a real-time situation where the student gets to click one of two buttons, I'm okay, or I'm confused. And their total of students will show up on the teacher's screen. Middle of the road, a teacher could perform real-time class polling. In other words, you could ask questions simply to engage students in the class and to get them to commit to some responses, to give their opinions on things, and again, just for engagement, and also to gauge where they're at, depending on the type of question that you ask. In all cases, when you use a tool like Soapbox, you are gaining real-time and ongoing assessment information that can guide real-time how your instruction is going. if a school is opting to purchase hardware such as the Promethean board for use with Active Inspire software, teachers may have the option to use student response systems, and that would mean hardware such as the Active Vote, which is a simple piece of hardware like ABCD, true and false types of responses to use with students, or the Active Expression. It's much more expensive, but a much more flexible tool, a robust tool as well, whereas it kind of looks like a cell phone. So students will be very comfortable with this, and they can actually provide short answer responses, short essays, and so on. And teachers can use this type of hardware and incorporate it right into their presentations. And again, immediately they get real-time data on how students are performing. Now, in addition to hardware such as this, student response systems that are associated with particular presentation boards and systems, there are also a number of other companies who provide tools like this. They're just not tied directly into a presentation system. Some of those tools will tie directly into products such as PowerPoint, and will incorporate the responses, will generate a summary of all those responses and either present them to the teacher or make it presentable to the students through PowerPoint. A lower tech version of a student response system is Plickers. And Plickers involves the teacher using a smart device, some mobile technology like an iPad or a cell phone, and then the students, instead of having some computerized electronic device, instead they use a piece of paper that holds a QR, a quick response code on it. So for example, here you see pictured the student number 1, that person's response card. You notice the number 1 is going around the card. You'll also notice there's an A, B, C, and D on this card. And the rest of the material on the card is the quick response code. Notice in this case, pictured here, we have letter B showing on top. So when the teacher wants to ask a question in the middle of class, the teacher then prompts the students to hold up the appropriate response, and they simply have to take the letter A, B, C, or D, whatever their response is going to be, and put that to the top and just simply hold it up so the teacher's camera can view this. This is a very quick technology from one point in a classroom, and I know because I've tried this in very large rooms with a large number of people. Teacher doesn't have to move. The teacher simply moves the camera around, and within several seconds will gather the responses of all the students. And again, real time, the teacher now has assessment data and can use that to drive where he or she goes throughout the rest of this class by using that information very well. So you can go from high-tech to low-tech solutions. To wrap up today's class and to process the information that we've considered today, select one of the 4 types of exit slips as suggested by Marzano, either to provide formative assessment data, to stimulate student self-analysis and reflection, to focus on instructional strategies, or to simply open and maintain positive communications with the teacher. So select one of those 4 types of exit slips, and then develop one exit slip and post it online. Keep in mind that when we're creating an exit slip, it should be kept short in length. It should be something that maybe involves 1 to 2 questions typically, and it should be able to be finished by a student at the end of class very quickly. Hope you enjoyed today's class and look forward to seeing you at our next meeting.